If you look at your cell phone, it's easy to see all the games and apps that you use every day. But have you taken a minute to think about how much work actually goes into making one of those? I'm a CS major, and I do software development all the time. I've made my fair share of apps, and I've taken classes on this subject as well. An article in Computer Mouse in 2009 says, the world is shifting from more of a traditional style work environment to a more sophisticated and tech-savvy one. This means that no matter what field you are, having some knowledge on software development will be important for your career. Today I'll be talking about software development, its fundamentals, as well as two methodologies of current software development. So starting off, the fundamentals. Every team that creates software has to keep these things in mind. These things can be, I list them here, usability. The software has to be intuitive for the customer to use and easy to use. Scalability, it has to be able to keep up with rising quantities of data and more people using them. Modifiability, it has to be able to keep up with the changing technologies. Security, it has to be safe, and performance, it has to run fast. Now there's an interesting relationship between the last two on this list, security and performance. An article in Computer Communications in 2014 says, security and performance compete for the same system resources. This could be CPU, memory, and energy. Basically, no software can optimize both security and performance. So it's up to the team to choose which one they value more and to get a good balance of the two. Now with these in mind, let's look at one popular form of software development. It's called waterfall. Waterfall goes in a step-by-step track, starting off with analysis, and then following the design, the requirement specs and design. Development is the coding process, and then when you finish coding, it goes into testing, and then finally your finished product. Now, the good things about waterfall is that since it's so structured, it values a lot on documentation, and it provides the customer a really good estimate on how long it's going to take and how much money it'll cost. However, there are some drawbacks, which the main problem is that it can't go back to previous steps once it's completed one of them. An article on Base 36 in 2015 says, the plan doesn't take into account a client's evolving needs. If the client realizes they need more than they thought, the project will come late and impact budget. Now this, the fact that you can't go back into previous steps is a big problem, and current software developers have thought of a new technique on bypassing this issue in the form of Agile, which is another software development methodology. Now Agile is characterized as being light on its feet and able to switch topics and incorporate new features quickly. The Agile Manifesto in 2001 states that the software development team using Agile should emphasize individuals and interaction, customer collaboration, and responding to change over comprehensive documentation. So this is all in theory, but what it looks like to go from waterfall to Agile is if you take our original waterfall design, turn it into a cycle, basically adding an arrow back from implementation to analysis, and finally making a bunch of these cycles, then you get what's called a sprint. Now each one of these sprints is a short period of time dedicated to coding or to creating a finished product that is potentially releasable. So an article in Robotics and Computer Integrated Manufacturing in 2015 says, the goal of each sprint is to create a usable and potentially releasable product. This means that it's easy to change your goal for each sprint based on what the customer wants. So if they decide their needs change throughout the course of production, then it's easy to compensate them. However, this form of software development also has its flaws. If the software team is not careful, then the finished product could be vastly different from what was initially intended. And as well as there's no way to get a good estimate on how long it will take or how much money it will cost. So in conclusion, these are a few steps. These are a few foundational pieces of knowledge for all software developers. I went through the foundations that every software team needs to think of when making their product. And I've also gone through two methodologies of software in the names of waterfall and Agile. So next time you look at your phone or use the next big app or game, just take a minute to think about how much work you actually went into that.